Howdy, you delicious people. I'm here to review The Crazies from 2010. Regardless of this movie being an actual remake, I feel that this movie is to be one of the more unique zombie apocalypse like experiences that I've gone on and seen in my time. Even though, yeah, there is stuff similar to this, like the Bill Murray's The Dead Don't Die, or we would have like Josh Hartnett's 30 Days of Night, which is actually a vampire movie and it's not a zombie movie, but still, it's fairly similar. The Crazies goes on and gives us a scenario that is to kind of feel very realistic, like this could actually have happened, or also give us certain characters that, yeah, they may go on and be simplistic, like Sheriff David, but you can go on and also sympathize with these people and really hope and root for them to make it out of this, regardless how bleak it starts to become the further and further we go into this story about how we go on, we have our characters doing all of this effort just to lose something, and it's like, well, back to the drawing board. Where are you going to go on and be able to get out of here, of this city now? How are you going to go on and be able to escape this zombie apocalypse now? And that ends up becoming a much more interesting story than anything else. And there are some points within this movie where it really slows the F down. We have at certain points where there is a good chunk of this film where there is just a group of people that are all just walking down a road to try to find either a car source or a way to in a faster pace get the heck out of there, or going on and having these people plan to make their way back to certain specific homes, to then turn around and hope that they can figure out a way to, after getting um, certain scavenging of things, to then get the heck out of there. And for this movie, uh, it is also really interesting to see a zombie apocalypse that occurs in a small town, and how people are to go on and feel once people are to either be killed or go on and eventually turn and what have you. And eventually, when the military just comes out of nowhere and starts ripping people through their towns, thrusting them in this quarantine, and going on to like have David realize, like, well, hey, like, I don't care what is going on, I want my wife back, and that's all that matters to me. And we would go on to have David with his deputy, who I believe is Russell, who's like, hey, I don't care if you can possibly go on and end up being sick. You're my deputy. So, like, we're going to ride this up until the point where you basically turn. And and so, like, because you're going to be the only one that is going to be the one that is going to help me. So, like, we are going to push this for as long as we can, and then when I start to lose trust in you, then we're going to find out an answer for that also. But yeah, so there is a lot of walking going on in this film. There is some certain dead points, but also this movie is at certain avenues to give us a good way of building suspense in the film, or to go on and have at certain avenues where certain characters are to be coming from off camera to surprise said people, and coming from some angle somewhere off to their shoulder, or to be appearing in the background of some scene and building up the fact that they're coming. And I really did like that approach. That approach was actually very smart, the way that they shot that, and I wish that there was a lot more movies that shot that way a lot more. I think that that is a much more better way to do a horror film than some other things. Like if you go on, you watch like The Conjuring, they go on and they do these like weird camera pans where it's like this stupid thing where they go on and they have like the camera start here and then they go from here and then they go back and then like booga, there's the scary point. I'm like, that's stupid. And they continue to do that throughout the entire bits of those films. I'm like, that is the worst way to shoot a horror thing. Um, like if anything, like it's better to kind of give us something that we're lesser expecting, and it's kind of coming seemingly from nowhere or off camera, um, and is gonna go on and like this movie didn't scare me whatsoever, but I still was going like, all right, like this is kind of keeping me kind of much more surprised to see where the scary parts are going to happen, and I can enjoy that a lot more than certain other ways of which that people are to kind of build things. So, with that said, with the way in which that I've been talking about this entire film, I really did actually enjoy it. I thought that this movie, I think it was solid good. I know, I'll say it's a good film. Uh, Reasonably, once we get to the third act or the later part of the movie, I'm just like, man, this really slows the F down. And I'm to really just be like, man, this is a slog to just kind of continue to watch at a certain point. But really, I did like how most of this movie was paced and how it was to go on and give us um, something that didn't feel so traditional than so many other things that I've seen in my time. So, with that said, I think that there is a number of apps that do have this movie available, but I think you'd probably have to go on through quite a bit of them. Probably have a subscription of some kind. I'm going to go on and explain to you that you can go on and be able to watch the zombie apocalypse film, The Crazies 2010, within certain specific apps for absolutely free. You can go on to have a mobile device that is to have a Google Play Store, that is to have certain apps like Zellifonix, Zelivonrc, or Moopzy, Moopzzi, and be able to watch a movie like Crazies for absolutely free, as well as also any number of other projects that would normally be certain very app specific. You can go on and be able to actually watch this movie as well as a number of others, again, for absolutely free. So with that said, I think it's about that time to just push into full-on spoilers about this movie, break it all down, and then calling this a day, because I think it's my time to go out of my way to say it's about that time yet again. Spoiler time, it's about that time again to spoil this movie. Let me know in the comments below what is be your favorite zombie apocalypse film, because maybe there will be one that I will decide to otherwise check out within the following days. Because I'm going on and right now covering a lot of horror movies. So logically, let me know what is be your favorite horror film, because eventually, maybe at some point, I will also cover that as well. Let me know in the comments down below what is maybe be your favorite Timothy Olyphant movie, because maybe you are to have gone on and liked stuff like The Perfect Getaway, or maybe you liked him in the show Justified, or maybe in Star Wars, which he was doing the Mandalorian thing. I don't know. Maybe you liked any number of those projects, and maybe at some point I will go on and realize that you are to be a person of a fan of a Timothy Olyphant. Maybe you were to go on and actually like Gone in 60 Seconds. Whatever. What Hitman? Whatever movie. Whatever thing that he was in. Maybe you like Live Free and Die Hard. A lot of people probably didn't bizarrely like Timothy in that movie, but regardless, maybe you liked him in that. I don't know. There's a number that he was in at this point. Let me know in the comments below anything that you want, because it does help out this channel. It does help out me know that people exist out there, and it does go on and be a thing that you can go on and do. But anyways, I'm going to sneeze here pretty soon, so I think it's about that time to pause this here, whip out my cast list, wherever I insist is to go on and be a thing that will help me be able to break this movie down. there are honestly certain people that are to go on and be within this town that I probably will figure out a creative way to say who they exactly are. Because I couldn't be bothered to say that the redneck characters would be Nathan, Jesse, and Red, or whoever they actually are in this film. I might just call them the redneck characters, just because that might just be easier because they're kind of more in a group than they are individually. Also, I I will probably go on and in my best way possible try to figure out how to kind of sum this movie up instead of going through every bit and piece of it. Plus, also, there are honestly so many people within this movie that I probably won't go on and be able to know who every single person is. So if I take a bit of time to just rattle off some name, I apologize. Because I did go through the cast list before going into this, but like it was a very kind of quick glance, and I always kind of in my brain kind of worry about the fact of like, well, like shouldn't I have gone on and looked at this like 5 or 6 other times to kind of be more sure about who everyone is. But otherwise, I think it's about that time to just push into spoilers. Thank you for going on and watching this because you may jump off at this point, but otherwise, I'm going to go on and rattle off what happens in this entire film, scene for scene. You know what I mean? Jelly Bean, let's go into the frickin' bit of this and pause this video here. Alright, I was not thinking that I was going to be able to get scathed away from opening up this review because, like, yeah, there's a lot to unpack there, as well as also, like, I don't know how to perfectly, poetically, talk about this movie. And also, I'm like, well, did I say too many things generically? I was to be going on and just being like, I don't know. Maybe I should have said a little bit more about what actually transpires within this film because I felt like I was a little bit too vague. But regardless, I did like this film, so hopefully a lot of others will check it out. So, for this movie, we of course go on and show a home being burnt to a crisp. We see a town that is to be in flames and in seemingly chaos. We have a number of vehicles and cars that are all be getting the boot to try and stop people from getting out of this town. Then we end up seeing 2 days earlier. We see farmlands, we see tractors. We would go on to see a tractor that is go on and just be driving off on the road. Yeah, it's very common practice. I would go on and see at some point. Some are like a tractor just driving onto the road. Uh, we then would go on and be showcasing a sheriff who was driving through this bit of farmland, making his way into town. So the next thing we would see here is that the focus part of this town is that there's going to be this baseball game. And so Becca makes her way to Judy, the local doctor, and is to go on and try to figure out a way for her to get out of her working by saying, like, well, hey, I just want to explain to you that my aunt's in town and she's sick and this and that. And so Judy's like, "Oh, she's sick, is she? Well, then you'll have to go on and you'll have to cancel going to the baseball game." And Judy ends up telling Becca, "It's like we all know because of how small of a town this is, what you're really wanting to go on and do, Becky. Go on and go on and do it. Like it's okay. Like I get it." And Becca's like, "Okay, great." So we have the sheriff that goes on and makes his way to the baseball field, and is to say that really the first day of spring is to actually just be opening day for this baseball school. We go on have this principal Ben, who is telling this concession stand to not go on and have the sheriff pay for coffee. And David turns to Ben and is like, well, hey, like, just because I'm going to go on and have my coffee comped doesn't mean I'm going to go on and get rid of your parking tickets. And as David leaves, Ben turns to the concession worker. It's like, hey, start a tab for him. Yeah, that was kind of funny. So both David and Russell, Russell, of course, is to be the deputy here. The two of them are going on and they're watching this baseball game, uh, and they're just enjoying uh, really this just pastime. So they're looking at the pitcher, and as he used to go on and, of course, throw it in, they're like, man, he pitches really fast. Yeah, he pitches like he drives. So all of a sudden, within the outfield, people start to notice an unusual presence. A guy named Rory, who, like, they end up calling him Rory, or Roy. Like, it doesn't really seem that they know who this guy's name is. Like, they just call him whatever. Rory, rar. That's you, rar, because you're going to be a zombie in this beginning of this movie. So, Russell goes on and points out to David about, like, hey, center field, there's something going on there. David notices that it's Roy, so we would go on to have the sheriff and deputy telling everybody, hey, get in the dugout. Everybody just kind of go to a shady spot to just kind of protect yourself, because we don't know what exactly is going on here. So we have David that makes his way to Rory, and it's consistently saying, hey, like, we're playing ball and you come out here with a gun. What the hell are you doing? So David goes on and tells Roy, hey, you're just drunk. That's it. Like, if anything, if you just put the gun down, like, we'll just kind of just scrap this all up. Like, come on, Roy. So Rory goes on and he lifts his shotgun, and David has nothing to do but to whip out his gun in response, ends up shooting Rory and killing him. And we then go on and pan up, I believe, from a satellite feed from this baseball field to then going further and further out. And it's going on to, of course, uh, give us this weird panoramic view of this town and its population. And then we end up seeing uh, some Air Force planes just flying by. Then they end up slapping the title screen. It's kind of funny how they have like this just big black screen, but then it's funny how like the title screen and also the whole 2 days later thing is to just be in the smallest little crevice of the. I'm like, you couldn't have blown that up? Like, come on. Like, you just have this big, huge black of a screen, but you have this little tiny little print there that it's like, okay, the Crazies. Or, okay, like, you couldn't have gone on and put a little bit more effort into the size of that thing? Anyways. So, we go on to have David, who is talking to the coroner, Jim. And Jim obviously is going to go on and do a biopsy and also do a talk training to see how drunk this guy was, because he's known for, of course, being the town drunk. And so Jim is going on and explaining to David how this talk training will probably take a week, maybe more. And Jim is also asking David, it's like, well, hey, are you okay after kind of what had kind of happened here? because I'm sure having to go on and kill somebody, it never gets easy. So Russell ends up coming into frame here, and so David ends up asking, like, well, hey, is Peggy here yet? Peggy Hamill is to go on and be, of course, the wife of Rory, the guy that David just killed. And Rory goes on to explain that it's like, well, yeah, like uh, her and her son are here. So David ends up walking out to explain to them what had happened. So both Peggy and both Kurt are to have made their way to this funeral home. So, because that's where the coroner is, they're all like kind of put into this one building. So David goes on to explain to this family uh, how he liked Rory or liked him a lot. Uh, and that all of this was just a simple mistake because of Rory just going on and being drunk. And Peggy's like, okay, that's not to really be matching up with Rory because Rory has been sober for 2 years now. Like, it doesn't make any sense. If anything, I guess you're just saying that this guy is to just be a town drunk just because that's what he's been kind of known for. And that's how you can easily just kind of chalk everything up. And we can start to see how further Peggy gets further and further more upset. And Peggy and Kurt end up leaving here. So the next thing we see is Judy, who is to be the of course doctor in the town, who is to go on and end up with David the sheriff. Judy makes her way through her home to find out kind of very early in the morning that probably David just could not sleep. So Judy goes on and is to just kind of comfort David at a point where David is just be focused on uh, kind of sanding or doing something with this piece of wood here. Judy comforts David and tells him that he did the right thing. And David is to just be talking about how he just needs a new blade for this tool. And again, Judy goes and stops David. It's like, you did the right thing. And the two of them comfort one another. And David is like, well, hey, you should go back to sleep. You need your rest. So David makes his way into the office and starts kind of doing some conversation with Russell. Uh, and kind of talking things out about what the phone call was to be about. David then makes his way into his office and is to be talking to Jim. Jim goes on and confirms to David about uh, the talk screen had Rory at an alcohol level of absolute zero point 0.0, so he wasn't drunk at all. David is to be very weirded out by this news and to be like, well, are you sure? And Jim goes on and tells David that he's like, I did the test twice. Like, believe me, like, this guy was not drunk. So David goes on and files some paperwork and is like, okay, like, so what is really to have been wrong with him of why he was to go on and do what he did? David makes his way back to the baseball field to just kind of replay the events and realize maybe he had gone on and made a mistake by going on and doing what he did out in that field. David also goes on and finds his coffee cup and figures out a way to get rid of it. David goes on to find in the field Ben in one of the bleachers. As David consistently keeps calling out for Ben, Ben is just not there. Consistently, David keeps calling out for Ben, 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 and Ben does not seemingly answer to the point to where finally, when David is like face to face with this guy, to where he can obviously should be able to see him, we then finally have Ben answer with the kids are really resilient, like they're okay, and don't worry. And David kind of cocks his head and is like, okay, this is not exactly the the response that I probably would have gone on and actually would have wanted, but okay, whatever. Like at least it's some kind of response either way. So then Ben goes on and states that he's late and he has to go. Maybe he was a little bit late because he wasn't all there. So now we go on and we have Judy that makes her way into her medical practice, her waiting room. And Judy goes on and is to be talking to Deirdre, Nicholas, and Bill. Deirdre goes on to explain to Judy that they're here because of Bill, about him just not quite really seeming right. Like there's just like he just feels off. He just feels wrong. I don't know. So Judy goes on and takes Bill back in the back and is to go on and ask Bill, like, well, hey, how are you feeling? Any pain or discomfort? And Bill goes on to say, Deirdre worries too much. I'm fine, just a little tired. And we have Judy that goes on to say to Bill, it's like, well, hey, you got any plans for the weekend? And Bill's response is to go on and say, Deirdre's worried too much. I'm fine. I'm just a little tired. And Judy's like, okay, that's that's not matching up with what I'm asking him. Like, Judy, I think, probably would not have much of a concern here because maybe she's thinking that this guy could maybe have dementia or maybe have Alzheimer's or maybe just have a memory problem of some certain kind or maybe even has a speech problem. So maybe like this could be any number of things, not a zombie infection going on. And plus, that would be much more difficult to rule out considering a zombie infection doesn't happen every day. So Bill goes on, makes his way back to the car, and so Judy and Deidre are talking. So Judy goes on to state that it seems that his vitals are fine. If anything, you should probably prepare him for getting probably a CT scan. But if anything, yeah, like I don't think it's anything serious right now. But if you need anything, give me a jangle. Give me a call. So we would then go on and transition to Deirdre and Nicholas kind of dealing with their events of Nightfall. So we have Deirdre, Nicholas, and Bill living in a very much farmland. And so Deirdre is looking out the window, and Nick is to eventually follow Deirdre within this room, trying to figure out what the heck is going on. It seems that both Nicholas and Deirdre, when looking at this window, are to be concerned that Bill is still outside, and they're just like, okay, what exactly is he going on and doing? Because it seems that there is to be still of a sound of a crop duster or whatever this machine is, that is still going on. And it's like, okay, this seems very unusual. So Deirdre goes on and tells Nicholas to just wait here. Deirdre is to go on and make her way outside, as Nicholas is to be looking throughout the door to see what exactly Deirdre is going on and doing. Deirdre makes her way to this barn to find that this crop duster, this spinning like farm equipment, is just uh, going on and on the way it does. And we were almost to have a quite possible like fear that this person was to go on and just be ran over and killed, but that doesn't exactly happen. What actually does happen is Deirdre goes on to make her way into this piece of farm equipment by opening this door and realizing that there's no one there. And so Deirdre goes on and turns this thing off and makes her way running back into the house, coming to find out that Nicholas's life is to be in danger. And so Deirdre makes her way back into the home, calling out for him, finding that there is a thing down on the floor that looks like either a cell phone or a PSP of some kind. But anyways, Deirdre calls out for Nicholas within the house, and when she goes on and finally does actually find Nicholas, they're to be thrusted within this closet for them to hide. Nicholas goes on and explains to Deirdre about their uh, their husband or dad. Like Nicholas goes on and explains that Dad, Bill, he has a weapon. He has a knife. So they're like, okay, what the heck is going on within our home? This makes no sense. So we have Deirdre that is really just thrusting her head to the door, trying to see through either a keyhole or something if she can see what's going on. Eventually, this leads to also Bill poking his eye through this keyhole and then putting his feet underneath the door to where we can see him through this crack. We have Deirdre that is desperately going on and holding onto this door, hoping that Bill is not going to open it, and he doesn't. If anything, I think the door does actually get locked, and Deirdre and Nicholas are stuck within it. Bill goes on and is to put gasoline all over the home and make his way to the very front door and is to take this match, drop it, and light the house on fire. The next thing we go on and see here is that David is getting a phone call that he has to leave in the middle of the night so that way he can go on and be present for what had happened in Bill's home. We have at one point where Judy is going on and asking David what the heck had happened, and Judy will also go on and follow David to see what had occurred because of how I guess Judy and Deirdre are really close friends to the point where when Judy ends up finding out what exactly happened, she is to be severely distraught about all of this. But if anything, David makes his way to the crime scene, and one of the firemen goes on to explain what exactly had transpired. Everything that I had just gone on to state to you, how both Deirdre and Nicholas were stuck in the house and had uh, burned up within uh, the home. There is no way for them to go on and escape. And at some point, let me pause here for a second. Okay. Sorry, I got a little bit distracted by something. So, but yeah, so they explain how Bill uh, was to eventually just go on and after his wife and son had been burnt into a home, how Bill was just going on and just kind of just left just there, just kind of very just not really all there. So Judy makes her way to Bill and asks him what had happened, and Bill does not go on or respond. Judy ends up getting further and further upset, uh, and David and Judy both hug. Oddly, we have Bill that is whistling Sweet Dixie or whatever, and I'm like, okay, like I guess this is to just tell us how this guy is just to have no remorse for what he had done. So the next thing we see here is the characters that I'm going on and classifying as rednecks. They're going on and they're seemingly hunting out of season, and so they're making their way through this brush to go on and find that there is to be a parachuter that has landed, and he is dead and is to be having a rotting corpse that goes on and freaks one of the men out, to the point of them going on and turning around and telling the sheriff about all this, and uh, both sheriff and deputy need to go on and obviously check this out. So both deputy and sheriff are also talking about how Bill is inevitably going to go on and get picked up by state troopers that are coming this afternoon to pick him up because they're going to transfer him out of here. Uh, they go on and they find it weird that Bill is just standing there like a statue, and David should go on and be curious for how long that could have gone on and occurred. And he is to go on and ask that because honestly, Rory had given him the exact same look, and so there seems to be some kind of connection between both Rory and now Bill to say that, like, okay, if this is happening more than once, there has to be some weird coincidence that is kind of connecting all these occurrences. So the sheriff, the deputy, and the coroner make their way out to this parachuter, and they're going on and they're trying to figure out his ID. We have David that goes on and talks to the rednecks and mentions to them that they're not going to be hunting anytime soon. And so we go on and we would have David and Russell talking here. And so, like, okay, since the pilot had landed in his parachute here, where did the plane go? So they have to figure out where exactly the plane is, and they would go on to make their way onto this boat, and have this person going on and kind of guiding them through this water. And we would have this guy who's going on and he's on this boat explaining about how he's hoping that he's going to get a reward out of this, specifically because uh, if anything, like if he doesn't get a reward, he'll probably throw these guys off the effing boat. And David goes on to tell the guy that, of course, is to be guiding them here. It's like, hey, kill the engine. David goes on to say to Russell that he realizes that there was a really big plane that had crash landed here. And Russell's like, well, how do you know that? And David goes on to say, because we're on top of it. And so the plane, we start to see uh, a little bit of shape of it through the water, but not very clearly. We then again have the satellite that kind of pans back up, and we again go back to sheriff and deputy that have made their way back to, of course, uh, their police office. We have a guy waiting for them there, and I believe that he is to be a reporter here. So David goes on to talk to this reporter about a plane that had gone down, but he wants nothing in the paper, he wants nothing in the news. And so the further and further they talk here, we have both David and we have both Russell. They draw the conclusion of like, well, hey, considering this plane had crashed into this water source, where does the water source drain out to? And Russell's to say this creek, uh, and it's like, okay, where does that go? And it's like, well, the Black Pond, and they start going on and they start talking about some monster catfish that they'd caught once that was X number of pounds. That ends up happening really late in the movie where Russell goes on to, I think, kind of bring some levity in to a situation where he's going to turn into a zombie. And he asks about that catfish. Hey, how big was that catfish? And uh, we would go on to have David, who's like, well, yeah, like 30 something to 40 pounds. Like, yeah, that was a really big fish. And then Russell realizes, yeah, I'm about to turn now, aren't I? But anyways, so they go on and they figure out by looking at this map who would go on and be the first to be affected by this water source ending up getting polluted, and it of course ends up being Rory Hamilton's house. So that ends up helping us understand why Rory had gone on to become a zombie the way he did, and possibly Bill going next. So David makes his way to Mayor Hobbs. David goes on to talk to Hobbs to explain to him that they need to shut off the entire town's water supply. And the mayor goes on to say to David, it's like, well, really, you're just going on and planning on doing this because of a simple hunch. And if you're going to go on and you're going to do this, like, you're going to kill a number of people's crops. You're going to hurt this town. And I can't really allow that to happen. And so there's no way I'm going to allow you to cut off this water supply. And by the end of it, Hobbs tells David it's like the water stays on. We have David that goes to himself to this water tower, and he takes a crescent wrench, or he takes a wrench, or whatever. He takes tools and all kinds of things, and he turns this off himself. Russell goes on to tell David, yeah, like, probably what you're going to go on and do here is probably going to lose your job. And David tells Russell, it's like, well, hey, maybe that's not going to be a bad thing. So Russell makes his way back to this locker, and he all of a sudden comes to find within Bill's cell that there is to be a blood mark upon the cell wall, and then we start to find that Bill's body is to become much more to a zombie equivalent. So Russell is tempted to check into the cell, and David stops him. David tells Russell, hey, you know what? Like, let's wait and let's see what happens. And Russell's to go on and be like, well, like, what if it is to mean that this guy is dead? And David is like, well, if he is dead, then he won't mind waiting. Like, I just want to see, like, what is going to happen if we just kind of wait a little bit longer. Bill ends up getting right back up and is to start to become a zombie, grabbing his hand through the cell bars and opening up his mouth wide, and going after both Russell and both David. David turns to Russell. It's like, well, hey, wasn't he supposed to be transferred out sometime today? So David and Russell make their way to the cell phone or to the phones that are landlines and the computers and their cell phones, and there's absolutely no service whatsoever from any of those. David goes on to turn to Russell and saying, like, yeah, we're really in trouble here if this is all what's going on. So David starts to make his way outside to try to find if he could get cell reception, which he's kind of doing within this picture here. Then David just decides to walk around the town for honestly how just deserted it looks, for how it seems that there's nobody really around. So David shouts out the word hello, and there oddly seems to be a woman that is to be on this bike, just tra-la-laing with her pigtails and just riding off. David is to go on like, okay, whatever that was, and then he turns, and there seems to be an SUV that is going on and taking pictures of both this woman and both David, and then driving off, which we have no clue what exactly that was all about. David goes on and hears some commotion coming from a funeral home, Finley's funeral home. So we would go on to have David, who is just very curious about what is going on within this location. And so David goes on and starts calling out for Jim, who is to go on and, of course, be the coroner. So as David makes his way to try to find Jim, he instead will go on and find these corpses that are lying on these tables. David goes on to open one of these sheets to find that there is a corpse with these X's over his eyes. Very unusual. Then again, there is also another one of these corpses that are actually moving, and they have a sheet over their head. David goes on to open said sheet and find the town's pastor laying down there, and so David is like, "Oh my god!" So David goes on and is to try to cut the ties of this person's mouth so this pastor can go on and talk. And the pastor goes on and tells David, "Behind you." David, of course, is to go on and turn and realize that the coroner is coming at him with uh, this spinning slicer-like weapon. So we would come to find that this is none other than the coroner Jim, who is trying to kill David here. We would go on to have this slicer that goes in to David's shoulder, but David has the ability to just kind of push it back out. They continue to fight with this weapon, and eventually it just gets to the point to where David is using the cord of said weapon to its advantage and just kind of figuring out a way to use this cord uh, to wrap around Jim here uh, to try and take Jim out. Once Jim falls to the ground, we all of a sudden have uh, the spinning uh, slicer weapon that comes free out of Jim's hands and starts making it way ever so closer to, of course, David, having his legs wide open, and it's seemingly going right for his gooch, right for his down belows, right for his downstairs, right for his twig and berries. And we have us realize, oh my god, what's going to happen to David here? And conveniently, the weapon ends up getting stopped by the grabbing of the cord by Russell. And he turns the thing off and is like, what the fuck? Like, so the next thing we go on and see here is David making his way back to his home, talking to Judy. And David is telling Judy, hey, you're going to get the heck out of town. I don't know what the heck is going on, but you're going to your mother's. You're going to get out of here. Judy tells David that she has a responsibility to the town because she's a doctor. And David tells her, it's like, well, hey, if the town needs penicillin, then I'll call you and I'll bring you back. But until then, you're going to get the heck out of here. Because, yeah, like, I don't know what's going on. As well as also, like this is starting to happen to a number of people in this. Yeah, so you're getting out of here. So, and I also like the penicillin line. Uh, that was pretty funny. So we would go on to have David that makes his way into his garage. And once David is in there, all of a sudden he's hearing the shouting of his wife. David makes his way back out of the garage and is to go on and realize that there is a military presence that is surrounding around him. All these military men are wearing gas masks and are to seemingly be throwing up their guns uh, and trying to get David to go down and 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 go with which that they want him to go, which is on this school bus. We have a number of people when David make their way onto the school bus are starting to ask him, "Hey, do you know anything about what's going on?" And David is like, "I have no clue more than you do. I have no idea what's going on. People don't start asking me questions. I have no idea." So Russell goes on to explain, "Hey, a funny thing happened when I made my way to Cedar Rapids. Someone tried to spike my tires." So the military was going on and trying to avoid and trying to put roadblocks so that way no one could leave this town. And so it's like, okay, that was the main reason why Russell was just kind of stuck here as he was trying to make his way to Cedar Rapids. So this Humvee of military men and this school bus make their way to this quarantined area. So, which ends up being at the school over by the football field. So we would go on to have both Judy and have both David, who are kind of looking out the window to see what's going on, and they see that they're making their way to this quarantined like area. So they go on and they push their way uh, into uh, be getting their temperatures checked and everything like that. David is just kind of like, okay, why are they checking everyone's temperatures? Turning to Judy because if anything, she would probably know more than David does. And so Judy is going on and saying to David, it's like, well, yeah, they're looking for elevated temperatures because they're thinking that that could go on and signify infection. So we go on and see that mothers are being ripped away from their kids, as well as also we would come to find out that Russell seems to have some measure of infection, so they're grabbing him and they're pulling away uh, him from David and Judy here. We would also go on and come to find that Judy is being ripped away from David also because she is to have a fever, even though actually she is just to go on and be pregnant. And there's a lot of people that actually do not know that Judy is pregnant, and eventually David is to break it to people that yeah, Judy is pregnant, but also they had gone on to make a whole room for their child, which ends up going on and ends up just being a waste, sadly enough. Uh, but anyways, so when both Judy and David end up getting separated here, David tries as hard as he can to fight to get back to Judy. They're separated by fences. And further as David fights, we have the soldiers that end up clocking him and knocking him out. The next thing we see here is that Judy is to be in a gurney or a stretcher somewhere, and she is to be kind of seatbelted into this thing, and she's going on and being forced to have done to her whatever these hazmat people want to do, which it seems that at one point they end up putting like a seemingly uh, like laughing gas over her face, and Judy is to scream and say that she's pregnant. She's pregnant. Hey, like just stop what you're doing because she's worried that she may lose her baby um, because of what they're doing to her. So David goes on and wakes up via this truck full of all of these people who have been quarantined away. And as soon as this vehicle opens, uh, we have all of these people scattering to go on and have all these military, like, hey, move here, all right. You go on and you get this little thing slapped on your hand and you go into this area and da 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 da. So now back with Judy in a room where it seems that there's a lot of people that aren't quite sane. Uh, that they're seemingly laughing or eventually probably turning. We don't exactly know, but all of them are going to be strapped to this bed. Eventually, we'll go on and we'll have Judy, who is to notice that Becca, her assistant, is also be in the same room as her, and they're kind of pondering what exactly is going to go on, or they're kind of pondering like, "Hey, are we going to make it out of this?" and I think it's like, yeah, I don't know. I don't, yeah, I don't think, I don't think our chances are all that good. So the next thing we see is that there's this fenced area that has a number of people uh, that are outside uh, being quarantined off. All of a sudden, there ends up having this truck come flying through this fence, and there seems to be a number of people just kind of thrusting out of it, and shots are being fired. People are escaping, fences are to be broken, and eventually we start finding out that a lot more people, I believe, in this situation are just to go on and just becoming zombies. So, because of this chaotic moment here, it seems that the military are to probably see this quarantined area to be lost, and they eventually want to, as quickly as possible, just to evacuate and leave this area because they realize how unsafe it is. But anyways, We do have David that makes his way to go on uh, and meet up with Kevin, the reporter that he had talked to before, and the two of them had surmised the uh, where the water was going and how exactly it all connected with Rory for how he had become the zombie because of this water. So both David and Kevin here are talking about their wives, and David tells Kevin that they had took Judy, and Kevin ends up saying to David that they took Linda, his wife. So we have Kevin that goes on to explain once David is like, well, hey, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna get my wife back, and Kevin turns to him, it's like, are you crazy? Like, if anything, Tim had tried to get his family back, and they wiped his entire family out once he was to go on and try something like that. So if anything, like, don't take the risk. And like, that's just a fool's errand. And David turns to Kevin. It's like, you think my wife is a foolish errand? Would you think that your wife is a foolish errand? And so David tells Kevin, it's like, well, hey, um, like, I'm not leaving without my wife. And so all of a sudden, as a Humvee is to pass, we would all of a sudden notice that David is to disappear and Kevin is to get back in line and just be like, well, okay, I guess he's gone now. So we have one of the gas men that are talking to one of the hazmat people and telling them to evacuate this area because it's pretty much all for loss now. And there are helicopters that are teleporting people out as some zombies are going on and attacking certain military people, and they're getting the heck out of there. So David makes his way back to his office to try to find a gun because he had his weapons confiscated from him. David goes on and finds Bill back in his jail cell, just kind of laying down or sitting down on the ground. David looks in the locker for shotguns or rifles and finds nothing there. So he goes into his office and finds that there is a case that he can open up where there is to be a gun there. As David goes on and whips this gun out, puts bullets in it, he is to be met by Russell, and he is to be, of course, freaked out by, oh, hey, yeah, Russell, all right, like, at least you're still alive. And nice to see you. So David turns to Russell and asks, like, well, hey, how did you get out? Russell goes on to explain about how Tom Ellis had tried to break through the fence, and that's how he got out of there when things got chaotic and nuts. And so David explains to Russell how Judy is still inside, and how he's going to go back for her. David also goes on to say that she's not sick and that she's just been running a fever for months because she's pregnant. And Russell's like, oh, she's pregnant? Congratulations. So Russell and both David make their way back to Judy. Here is where Judy is going on and starting to talk to Becca here and ask if this really is going on and happening. And Judy is trying to comfort Becca with saying that everything's going to be all right. We're going to be okay. And Becca tells Judy, it's like, do you really think that? So here's when we have Ben come in with his pitchfork, making this horrible screeching nail on a chalkboard like sound. And they now have to remain quiet here. Ben has become a zombie. He is making his way to all these people that are tied uh, to these stretchers, and one by one gonna go on and take his pitchfork to kind of walk over to their certain stretcher and take a pitchfork to their chest and start to kill them one by one. We would go on and have Ben go through two different people. Uh, Whoever is to go on and honestly make sounds first, and then Ben is to finally make his way uh, to Becca, as Becca had turned her face to Ben, and Ben had saw her, and then Becca's like, "Oh, I'm gonna die next," just because he saw my face and saw me just kind of very sad and crying. Ben starts to make his way to Becca, as now Judy is to just be like, "Oh my god, I don't want my friend to get hurt." So we get to a point where like both Becca and both Judy at this point are both shouting, trying to figure out a way to be like, "Hey, please don't, please stop, please." Blah, blah, blah. So we have at a point where uh, Judy screams no. Ben overhears that. It's like, huh? And then Judy's like, oh, like I got his attention. Fuh. So Ben starts to make his way to Judy as Becca is to try and plead for Ben to not do this, hoping that he'll go elsewhere, but he doesn't. The further and further that Ben makes his way, uh, uh, nails on chalkboard with the pitchfork onto the ground, and Becca is screaming, "Leave her alone." By the time that Ben conveniently can lift up his pitchfork to make the strike against Judy, we conveniently have David, who is to fire into Ben's chest, keeling him over, and then David appears to free Judy and Becca. Or actually, Judy frees Becca, but still, they both get freed and they both get the heck out of there. So as they go on and make their way out of this facility, there is one person that is consistently asking any single person that is to be around, whether they are to be a dead corpse or not, did Billy call? Or did Peter call? Did Peter call? And on she goes. We have Russell that turns to David and says, I'm going to be just like that person at some point, right? When I turn. And David then turns to Russell and says, hey, who am I to you? And Russell says, well, you're the sheriff. It's like, well, then who are you? Well, I'm the deputy. It's like, well, I'm the sheriff. Like, the position of the sheriff is to have the deputy do whatever I say. So you're not going to turn because I won't allow it. Because, like, I don't want you to turn, so you're not going to. So that was kind of like a nice moment between the two of them to just be like, well, hey, like, you're not going to turn because I don't want you to turn. And so, yeah, so we're just going to leave it at that. And also, if he does turn, then we're gonna kind of just take care of the business, if you know what I mean. But anyways, but so Russell goes on and tells uh, David, it's like, well, I hope you're right that I'm not gonna turn, because Russell did not think that he was going to become some world leader someday, but he did have some kind of plans going on with his life. So the four of them make their way through the town. And as we'd of course have them continue to go through every single car to find that it's either been booted or something is wrong with it, by the time they finally do find some vehicle, some truck, they go on and realize that the truck is to actually be owned by the redneck guys, who are to go on and be finding these certain zombies and killing them and chucking their bodies into this truck and then leaving. After the guys go on and leave, they're like, okay, like let's just kind of get out of here. Uh, so we would go on to have David explain to Russell that they're just going to go back to his home. David has a car that is just kind of on cinder blocks right now, and that could be the one thing that they could be using to get the heck out of here. Because if anything, they couldn't have booted a car that doesn't have wheels on it. So they're going to fix up the car and then get the heck out of there. So they make their way back to David's place, and as they're trudging through this field, Becca's to go on and realize that if anything, her boyfriend is to go on and actually be nearby, and Becca wants to see if her boyfriend is to go on and be okay, and David turns to Judy and says like, well, hey, we don't really have time for this. And Judy says like, well, hey, if you had time for me, Becca can have time for this, and we can make time uh, for this also. So they make their way into Becca trying to find her boyfriend Scotty. Becca continues to call out for Scotty, and we would come to find that Scotty is in this barn and he has this sniper rifle, and he isn't saying anything, and he's just further getting ever so much more closer to these people to see if they are infected or not. David points a gun right at Scotty's head, and Scotty finally answers, I just wanted to be sure, and then he puts his gun down. Both Scotty and Becca both hug, and Becca ends up asking Scotty where his mother is, and it's like, well, hey, we're back. She's back at the house. They were going to get supplies together, and then they were gonna start walking because they were gonna figure out a way to just evacuate and get the heck out of there. So we would come to find that the military is making their way to this specific location. That forces David and everybody to make their way back into the barn to just kind of be unsure about what is going to transpire here. So the military goes on and is to find Scotty's mom within the house, brings her outside, and eventually Scotty runs out uh, to make his way to his mother. Eventually, the military goes on and kills both Scotty and his mother, and then the military continues to scatter around to try to find if there's anybody left within this area. What eventually goes on and happens is David grabs one of the soldiers, takes them into the back of the barn, and is to, of course, go on and explain to them that, hey, man, like, we're not going to go on and try to kill you or anything like that. if anything, we're maybe going to go on and just have a bargain with you. If you can just pretend that we're just not here. If anything, I'm a sheriff of this town. My wife is a doctor, and these are all who these people are, and like, and so on and so. And so the soldier, because honestly he has a gun pointed at him, he's like, well, yeah, like I'll definitely go on, and like I'll agree to your terms. That like if anything, hey man, uh, like I was just dropped here out of nowhere, and like I was to have to go on and kill unarmed civilians, and I hate what I'm doing. So yeah, I'll definitely go on and I'll do whatever you say. So David is forced to give this soldier back his gun and let him hopefully do what he agreed to. So as his soldier makes his way back to one of his own, and they ask him, hey, is anybody in this barn? And the guy says, no, this place is clear. And so they're like, okay, well, hey, like, let's get out of here and let's go elsewhere. So that is a hugely condensing down of what all happened here, but I'm trying to just push as much as I can further and further. Also, uh, the soldier's name, of course, was Babcock, but I just kind of couldn't have been bothered to actually list what that actual specific guy's name was. But anyways, uh, here is also the moment where when Judy was talking to Babcock, she goes on to find that supposedly the infection could quite possibly be airborne, and him putting on this gas mask was to possibly prevent him from getting this, and that there could be no possible way for people to prevent themselves from going on and getting this infection at this point, and maybe everything that they're doing is all for loss because they're going to go on and become zombies and possibly turn here, but they're going to do it anyways. So Becca, Russell, David, and Judy. Here is where we get this huge long walk here that starts this pattern of this stuff tending to occur. So as David and Judy make their way back to their own home, we would see this cop car that is to have seemingly been burnt down and booted. And Judy tries to get back to some normalcy, taking all of these towels and uh, collecting them into her arm. And Judy goes on to say, like, this is a perfect, beautiful morning, and this is our home, and we were supposed to raise a baby here. And David interrupts Judy and's like, well, hey, we can still do that. Like, believe me, it can still happen. Just we have to put our on pause, kind of thing. So, but if anything, Judy says like, well, everyone we know is dead at this point. Uh, this town is dead, and we're probably never going to come back to it. So Russell and Becca make their way to the barn to salvage what they can of this car, and Russell turns to Becca and tells her to go to the toolbox to find certain tools here. Judy and David make their way through the house. Judy is to go on and, of course, get some pieces of clothing together and makes her way into her uh, possible future child's room, where Judy goes on and takes a moment to look at this bedding and everything like that to just realize what could have been. All of a sudden, as Judy is taking this moment, we would find behind her to be Peggy Hamill, the person who had gone on and talked to David earlier about, like, you killed my husband, you killed the town drunk. So we have Russell that is going on and replacing this tire as David is getting some resources. He's getting some medical resources, some alcohol, some rubbing alcohol, and just a number of things that he can just all put into this bag, uh, just in case they would go on and futurely need it on the road. Futurely, future-ish in ways need in the road. I don't know, whatever I'm trying to say here. So as further David is to realize, like, okay, Judy, like, when are you gonna come down? Like, we gotta get out of here. And notices that she's going on and taking a long time to get downstairs. David then comes after her to find out that Judy is to actually be in her uh, baby's room. And David is like, oh, Judy, come on. Like, we gotta go. So David goes in the room and realizes that his wife is tied to a chair and duct taped and what have you. David is now wrestling with Kurt, who is to, of course, be Peggy's son. Curtis, who have gone on and had these either zip ties or like some kind of choking like mechanism of some kind on to, of course, David's neck and really wrenching at this thing. David goes on and loses the grip of his gun and it falls to the ground. David is ever so desperate to get back his gun and he is just fingertips away. All of a sudden, we have a knife come slamming down onto David's hand, having it ever so more so way more difficult for David to be able to reach this gun if it were even possible for him to even do so. Peggy then takes the gun out of David's reach. Peggy goes on and is to take the gun and is to realize that this was to have been the gun that had killed Rory. And Peggy goes on to take the gun, pointing it away from her, firing it off, and then goes on to take the gun to point it back at Judy here. David realizes that there's a possibility that Judy will be killed here, so David is to go on as best as possible to distract Peggy from doing so by ticking her off. David starts onto this rant about, like, well, hey, I shot him. I shot Rory. Peggy, I shot him. If anything, shoot me. Look at me, you crazy bitch. Like, yeah, I shot him. Like, I did it. Like, he had a, a loaded shotgun in a field. I'm glad I did it. They should have gave me an effing medal. I finally killed a town drunk. So, finally, as Peggy turns to David, what David does is he kind of elbows or he kind of thrusts Curtis off of him, or Kurt off of him. And then he turns himself to Peggy after David had gone on to knock the gun out of her hand. David still has his grasp onto Peggy and is to take the knife that he has now ripped from out of the floor and punctured it into Peggy's neck and is now thrusting it further into her neck. And we have at a point where David goes on and takes the knife and he pulls it out. And I'm like, shouldn't he have gotten infected there? Shouldn't that have made sense for him to have gotten infected? Because he's not only having his blood, but then hers within his system, technically from thrusting that blade out, but I guess that just doesn't work that way. Or maybe David could go on and be bizarrely immune to this virus, who knows? But either way, the next thing we see here is David to then go on and realize that Kurt has this gun And David thinks that he's going to get killed here, and then all of a sudden Russell is conveniently outside within this window, spotting what is to have transpired, is shooting Kurt. Kurt falls over here, and we would then go on and have David that frees Judy, and Becky and Russell run their way up to this room, and Russell goes on to take the gun and fire upon both Peggy and both Kurt to say, hey, if anything, I'm killing these people just to be sure that they're dead. That's when David and Judy are just like, okay, like I don't know if we can really trust this guy. So Judy even turns to David as Russell and Becca are outside, kind of waiting by the car, and says to David, it's like, hey, like we have to remember that Russell is probably sick. And David turns to Judy. It's like, dude, he saved our lives. And that's the only thing that I care about. And that's the only thing that I saw. And we have Russell that goes on to explain within this movie later on also that's like, hey, man, I saved your life a number of times at this point. Like, if anything, like you owe me at least to just kind of see things out. But anyways, we have everybody that goes on and gets in his car and drives away. All of a sudden, Becky in the back seat is starting to cough. People are getting very concerned, like, oh my god, she's coughing. Oh no, Russell's like if she's sick, we can't have her in the car. It's like, dude, Russell is probably sick. We have him in the car. So Judy tells Russell that she's fine, and for them to not go on and kick her out of the car just because she has a slight cough. And Dave goes on and says, hey, don't lose your head. And Russell's like, well, what do you mean by that? And kind of continues on this argument of like, well, what do you mean by that? What do you mean? And like, so all of a sudden, the argument stops because they end up seeing a helicopter that is flying overhead. They're questioning whether or not that this helicopter is going to go after them or do anything to them, and they realize that the helicopter is circling around. So like, oh yeah, this thing is coming for us. We need to go on and to find some kind of shady spot so we can hide this out. So David decides to park his car into a car wash. It seems to be a shady enough spot. But eventually we'll come to find that this car wash is going to be an accident because eventually a car wash will have zombies within it. And the car wash will end up getting turned on, and once the car is to be forced into going through the process of this car wash, eventually these zombies will try to break their way through these windows and these windshields and go after these people. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself. So, while the car sits into the car wash and just kind of waits for things to happen, uh, David and Judy are having this argument, and here's the really funny bit of dialogue that goes in between the two of them. They're trying to think of some road that they can go into that could be the most safe to venture into. And David turns to Judy. It's like, well, uh, what possible road, what possible magic road, could we use to get away from all this? Uh, and Judy turns to David. It's like, well, hey, I'm just trying to help. And here's where all of a sudden they start to find out that they're not alone within this car wash. That sounds are starting to be made, and eventually they'll come to find that the car wash is turning on, and this car is to be forced to go through the car wash. And so the guys are just going like, oh crap, what's going to go on and happen now? So as the car wash starts to make its way into this stage of just this wax, I believe, just kind of sprinkling onto the car, we see in the rear window that there is to be a zombie that is to be behind them. So we have Russell that is turning to David, who's consistently saying, "Hey, let's go. Let's get this car out of here." And David is going on and telling the guys like, "Hey, I can't do it. I can't get out of this." So Russell goes on and whips his window down and tries to fire on some of the zombies. And eventually, he ends up getting his gun taken away from him through the machine. So what goes on to happen here is that David's window ends up getting broken into. One of the zombies grab David. Uh, the back window, I believe, also ends up getting broken. And we also have the windshield that is to end up getting broken and getting opened. And a zombie ends up coming for Judy. And Judy goes on and wrestles with this zombie. She ends up like booting him off. So everybody's fighting all these zombies at this point. Everyone's getting grabbed. So we luckily have most of the people stay within the car and they get away from these zombies and they figure out a way to fight them. And they think that all the coast is to go on and actually be clear here, but as they drive off and Becca is to kind of turn to look back, we all of a sudden would have one of the zombies on top of the hood of the car, having this bit of rope here that grabs Becca, uh, has Becca fly out of the car. She ends up getting noosed and killed here, and they all stop the car, go back for her, realize that it's too late, she's dead anyways, and they go on and they take out whoever zombie is to go on and actually be left here. So they can just have this moment just to like just mourn for Becca's loss that she's dead. And unfortunately, as they look at the cop car, the helicopter is to have blasted a missile at it to explode the car. And Russell is to look at that and be like, "Oh, great!" And then he just kind of prattles off, and David's like, "Yeah, well, yeah, I guess we're screwed there." And they're right back to the drawing board. So we have the three, Russell, David, and Judy, who are all walking onto the road trying to find some kind of car that has some way of it being able to be drivable here. And we also have Judy, who is trying to go through coolers and a number of items to just try and find something of some kind of resemblance of food or beverage, so they can go on and get some kind of nourishment here. So we would come to find that there seems to be one SUV that is making its way onto the road, and David turns to Judy and says, "Hey, we're going on and we're going to take these people's car. We're going to go on. We're going to do whatever we need to get this car because we need it." And so, as David goes on and puts his gun up, we have Russell that is going on and having uh, himself uh, this thing that he can throw out onto the road to have these tires all go flat, and the SUV ends up going flying and ends up crashing. And David is to look at Russell like, "Dude, I was just trying to get this car. Like, this is a car that we needed. Like, but you went on and you just kind of did this on your own." And come to find out, uh, David would find that one of these men are to go on and still be alive within this car. And so, and this is an intelligence officer. So David is like, "Well, hey, since this guy is still alive, I'm going to go on and start asking him questions." So David goes on and whips this intelligent officer out of this SUV and starts to go on and starts asking him questions. So the officer goes on and tells David about how there was a 48-hour uh, period that if you are to not to have gotten infected, then you won't. And David goes on and it's like, well, great, like you guys completely wiped out my town, and all we had to do was wait 48 hours to see who was really going to get infected. So we would also go on and have the officer that goes on to explain about how there was some prototype that ended up getting on that plane and crashed the way it did. And let me oh, pause here for a second. So the more that David is to go on and get upset with this officer, the officer is to say, it's like, well, hey, if you have a problem, like, talk to that pilot. If anything, I just came here to help your situation. And David goes on to like, help us. So we then have Russell that goes on and shoots this officer, and David ends up getting upset with Russell. It's like, well, hey, that could have been the guy that could have gotten us out of here. But if anything, you killed him. And David turns to Russell and says, like, hey, I wanted to talk to him. And Russell's like, well, you talked. And then he walks off. Russell goes on and he makes his way into the SUV, and he starts getting bits of things here and there. He starts grabbing laptops and just kind of other kind of gadgets here. As Russell makes his way back out of the SUV, he realizes that his rifle or his gun is no longer there, and David is going on and hanging on to it because he no longer trusts Russell anymore to hold on to this gun because it's like, well, hey man, you've been holding on to it for a very long time. I'll hold on to it now. Like I think I'll be the one who's holding most of the guns here because yeah, like like considering Russell is to just kind of be uh like very unpredictable here. Yeah, like and plus also there's a bit of logic that is getting more and more missing on Russell of what they're trying to do here. Yeah, like we really have to go on and try to just kind of uh, put matters into David and Judy's hands. So the further that Russell and Judy are talking, or the further that David and Russell and Judy are talking about the whole like, well, hey, I got the gun, like it's all right, like I'll just kind of carry it on from here. And both David and Judy walk off. Russell then comes up from behind David, pulls a gun on him, and is like, no, like I'm gonna take the gun back. And they turn to Russell and it's like, hey, we're on your side. And it's like, well, hey, like there is no side. It's like I'm on my side. And so Russell goes on and turns a gun on both David and Judy and just tells them to continue to walk. And so they're forced to. Uh, Even at some point when Judy is continuing to talk, David turns to Judy. It's like, well, hey, like you're definitely gonna have to go on and shut up here because Russell wants you to shut up. So we're just gonna do what he says, and we're just gonna continue to walk. So as they make their way through this road, we have at a point where Russell is to realize that this sniper rifle is getting too heavy for him to carry. So he goes on and he wastes all the bullets, or he takes all the bullets out and he drops it onto the ground and he continues to walk. So David tells Judy that he needs to confront Russell. That if anything, like, uh, that we're going to have to make it to a certain truck stop anyways. And so David finally goes on and confronts Russell. and tells him, hey, I really want to talk here. And so David tells Russell, hey, you better listen to me and put the gun down. We have David that's like, hey, let's talk, you and me, man to man. And so eventually, David gets closer and closer to Russell and unexpectedly punches Russell, knocking him down. And so David grabs the gun away from Russell and says, here's the deal. And so as David gets back up, Russell goes on and he has to ask about that catfish and how big it was. And David replies with 35 to 40 pounds. And then Russell goes on to say, like, well, I guess I am sick after all. And Russell tells David, it's like, well, hey, can I just follow you guys a little bit longer? And they agree to it, and they just keep having him walk behind them. This is where the movie really just effing slows down. So it really does. So David and Judy make their way to this quarantined area where Russell is to tell David and Judy here. He's like, hey, I'm going to go on and be the distraction to where these people are going to go on and focus on me, and you guys can escape and get the heck out of here. So Russell ends up asking David for the gun, and Russell goes on to meet with the military, and he's shouting and waving his hands in the air, and we have Russell that makes his way to hide behind this car. He gets this gun out, and he takes, I think, all the bullets out of the gun. Russell goes on to then reappear in front of the military, and he ends up getting shot. And he goes on to say to all these people, F you for all what you did. So Russell ends up getting killed shortly thereafter, as David and both Judy sneak away because the military is to go on to be very distracted with Russell. David and Judy make to this gas station after all, and so their plan is to go on and find this truck that is seemingly in one of these hangars or this repair place and go and get that and then drive out of here. So David turns to Judy and says, like, hey man, it's kind of really weird that this place is just very deserted the way it is, because this place normally is to be like Grand Central Station, and it's always very busy. So David and Judy make their way into this place, and they make their way to this restaurant, and David calls out hello, and no one answers. David makes his way in the restaurant, and no one answers. But Judy is outside, and she's making her way through these certain trailers that had hauled a number of these people, and Judy finds from the back of them that there had been a number of people that had all gotten uh, shot or burnt, and Judy is to be mortified by that visual of realizing that no one um, had gotten out alive out of this town, that everyone had just gotten killed. So David makes his way back to Judy, and that's where they find all the bullets, as well as also all the dead carcasses of all these people. They make their way back into the diner, and here is the really good moment where David turns to Judy. It's like, well, hey, do you want to give up? If you want to just stay here and die right here, like, I'm with you. But, like, if you want to leave, then we can do this. So the two of them kiss, uh, and Judy tells David, it's like, well, hey, you go on and you find that truck and we get the heck out of here. David goes on and gets these backpacks and gets these things of water and gets this lighter, which eventually will soon play out to a weapon that he'll need soon. Judy grabs this bottle of water and starts drinking it. I'm like, wasn't there a water source that was going to go on and make people turn into zombies? But it seems that people just, I guess, if you grab bottle of water, I guess it's okay. I don't know. That just seemed weird to me. But so David makes his way into uh, this repair place, this repair garage, and he finds uh, this little cabinet that has all these keys in it, and he grabs every single one of them. Conveniently, none of these keys will actually be the one that is to be the one that he needs. Instead, the key will actually be on the truck driver as he falls out of this truck, this semi truck, and conveniently then of course, David will go on and grab these keys, get back in the truck, and eventually be able to get the heck out of there. But there'll be a thing, that'll be a stopping gap, and we'll talk about that here shortly. So, as David goes on and gets the keys and starts looking around for the semi truck, he goes on to find the redneck's truck full of all these dead bodies, freaking him out. Judy goes on to eventually have the power go out in this restaurant, and she eventually, as she turns, we have off in the distance one of the rednecks that are kind of appearing in the distance. Judy goes on and makes her way behind this counter, and she ends up being scared by one of the men. Judy goes on to eventually make her way into, I believe, a freezer where there is a number of dead bodies present, and Judy goes on to hide from the rednecks that are just kind of wandering around trying to find her. Judy goes on and has to have this massive kitchen knife and is just waiting for someone to eventually come for her. David goes on and grabs Judy from behind and is like, "Oh, like, hey, I'm here. It's me." Like, so the two of them make their way to this semi truck, and as they try to make their way into, of course, the truck, as Judy kind of makes her way into the truck, and then David is to start making his way through all the keys and realizing that they're, of course, then not the right key for him to go on and use. David realizes that he has to go on and look further to see if there's a possibility that there could be a key elsewhere. And here is where the rednecks go on and they make their way into this repair garage, and they start firing the sniper rifle, leading Judy to close the uh, the semi truck door or the semi truck door to avoid getting shot at. David goes on and he ends up getting grabbed from underneath this semi truck and getting pulled under. Kind of what ends up playing out here shortly is going to be fairly similar to the Timothy Olyphant Hitman movie, where uh, the Hitman character ends up getting pulled underneath. I think this subway or this train, and then he starts fighting this guy underneath uh, this little thing, and like it seems very similar to the Hitman movie, uh, to where it kind of goes the exact same manner because we'll go on and we'll have David's character that is fighting against this guy. He thrusts this thing that has all this oil on it and shoves it to where it goes on and hits this redneck, this redneck. This redneck goes kind of falling over. David takes this lighter, chucks it. This guy lights on fire, and as the underneath of this thing is to all be a cinder of flame, we then would have David, who is uh, who snuck out of there unscathed. We would have one of the rednecks, who I believe his name is Nathan. Uh, yeah, so I believe at least I'll say that name. Nathan goes on and makes his way into the semi truck to find where Judy is. As Nathan is to poke his head in here, Judy fires her gun, and Nathan falls back out of the semi truck, and his head now has a bullet wound in it. Judy goes on and is to find David onto the ground, grabs him so that way they can get back out of there. David goes on and starts the car or starts the semi truck and drives away. David had gone on to find this walkie-talkie while he was at this area, and come to find out that this walkie-talkie is going on and doing this bizarrish countdown. And as Judy and David are both talking, they're like, "Well, what's going to happen when it gets to zero?" And it's like, I have no idea. So the further and further it counts down from the start of seemingly 60 to zero, it's like, yeah, this is going to take a while. So eventually, when it finally does go on and turn to zero, David asks Judy to look behind them to see if there's anything that is to go on and seemingly occur or be out of the normal. David ends up asking Judy anything, and she's like, no. All of a sudden, shortly thereafter, there's this huge mushroom cloud because there had been a nuclear weapon or an A bomb of some kind that had been unleashed out onto this town, forcing both David and Judy to drive as fast as they can to get away from this aftershock of this bomb going off. And it seems that they were to not be quite easily able to get away from the radius of blast. So there's semi ends up going on and getting flipped over. We would go here to then have David, who is to try to escape from out of the semi, and then he goes back for Judy to also retrieve her out of the semi as well. So both David and Judy turn back to realize that their whole entire town had been wiped out. And the next thing we go on and see is the two of them now in these tourist clothes that they've gotten at this truck stop, and they are now walking seemingly to or through this cornfield, making their way to this town. And we start to kind of pan up at the satellite feed that is to go on and mention Cedar Rapids, Iowa, population X number of population here. And that's how we wrap up this film. So I'm going to get the heck out of here. Man, that took only almost 2 hours. And I'm grateful that only took that length, because I'm like, man, like I was kind of expecting this one to take a very long time, but I was trying as best as possible to try and just minimize the amount of stuff that I was going to go on and talk about here. So, if anything, if people thought that was to be really be rushed, yeah, it really was. But also, I try to do my best to describe all these movies, but uh, reasonably, I think the way I was really going on and talking about this one was severely vague. So I apologize for anyone who's going to go on and probably say, I got nothing out of this, because I can probably understand why. Because it's like, yeah, I was really just being very more vague than I thought that I actually should be. But at least I kind of described the film, and I tried as best as possible to say what all happened here. But yeah, this one, out of all the other stuff I've kind of done, kind of felt like I didn't quite get there um, to best explain this movie. So if I didn't, I apologize. But otherwise, freaking, I spent 2 hours with this thing. So I hope that people will go on and find this review, hopefully, and uh, eventually help this channel be able to find people. But either way, this is gonna be another review, and I probably might end up possibly turning around and doing another one. But like, it seems that these are getting really very difficult to try to do two a day, or it seems that I'll go on and be able to uh, get one done, and then I'll turn around and try to do another, and it's just really super hard to just be awake enough by the time that I turn around and do another um, movie and I watch it, and then I'm like, oh, I got to review it at this point. But I'm like, I don't have the freaking energy to be able to do that after everything that I've accomplished through my entire day. So I hope to try to do more reviews, but also it's just like, man, like I'm really very burnt out right now. So I'm just like, God dang, like, why can I go on and why can I do more of these? Because I remember when I was going on and I was really banging out these reviews, and now I'm really struggling to even get one done a day, or one done every other day, or whatever I'm kind of doing right now is just kind of very sporadic and just kind of like I'm just trying to get as much done humanly possible. So thank you for going on and watching this, however you were going on and doing it, because I'm gonna hopefully try to just keep finding some title to just eventually push out to you, the viewer, because I just keep needing to just find these projects and hope that they're gonna do the best that they possibly can. So I'm gonna get out of here before I get to the 2 hours. So goodbye, everybody. Bye, everybody.